Hello everybody, today we will be reviewing this Lionel Lionchief Plus 2x2 Mikado, Baltimore and Ohio, number 4500, here on Brendan's Strains. Now, before we talk about this model, let's talk about the history of the real 282 Mikados. So, the Mikado is a 282 type steam locomotive. In case if you don't know what 282 means, it means for the wheel configuration on the engine. So this means we have 2 wheels up on the lead truck, 8 drive wheels, and 2 wheels underneath the cab for support. Now, 282s were normally called Mikado-type locomotives, and this all began back in 1897 when the first 282 locomotives were delivered to Japan, and they decided to call them Mikados, and then the name stuck. The name Mikado would stay on these engines up until World War II, when, of course, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and they wanted to rename these engines to MacArthur's and not Mikados because it's a Japanese name. But then after World War II ended, the name MacArthur was dropped and the name Mikado returned. Now, Mikados were probably some of the most popular engines on every railroad. In fact, every major railroad at some point had Mikados, and the Baltimore and Ohio had 100 of these. Now let's talk about the real 4500. Baltimore and Ohio, number 4500, was built on July 4th, 1918, only taking 20 days to be built. 4500 was the first of 1,800 different U.S. Army locomotives built under federal management between 1918 and 1920. When 4500 was built, she was one of the most modern engines of her day. With a boiler pressure of 200 psi and a 63-inch diameter driving wheels, she could produce 53,800 pounds of tractive effort. In 4500's career, she got a couple cosmetic changes later on in her life. Her headlight was moved on top of the boiler. She got a Baltimore and Ohio nameplate in the middle of the smoke box door, and her bell was positioned further back. Number 4500 kept her original number until 1957, when she was renumbered to 300 to make room on the B&O roster of the 4-digit diesel locomotives. After a few months when she was renumbered, 300 was retired of August of the same year. In 1964, 4500 was put on display at the B&O Railroad Museum in Baltimore, Maryland, and was renumbered back to 4500. In 1990, the 4500 became a National Historic Mechanical Engineering Landmark. Today, the 4500 still resides at the B&O Railroad Museum under one of the buildings on static display. Now that you know the history of the real 4500 and the Mikado, let's talk about this model here. This model of the Lionel Lionchief Plus Mikado came out in the Lionel 2016 Volume 2 Lionel catalog, and they made 6 different road names. They made a Baltimore and Ohio that you see here, a Chesapeake and Ohio, a MKT, a presidential one, a Halloween version, and a U.S. Army version with the same road number. No matter which road name you buy, they're all pretty much the exact same, except paint. However, the Halloween version has Halloween sounds instead of the normal sounds you see on these engines. Let's talk about some of the features of this engine. Features of this locomotive include a firebox glow, a headlight, all die-cast construction, chugging, a bell, a whistle, crew dialogue, electrocouplers, Bluetooth compatibility, and an operational fan-driven smoke unit. Now, there are 4 ways to operate this engine. You can either run it with the Lionel Lionchief Plus remote it comes with. You can also run it with the Lionel Universal remote. You can also run it with the Bluetooth app, or you can run it conventionally with just a transformer and some track. This locomotive has some great detail, so let's go ahead and take a closer look. Here's a look at the pilot of the engine. Now, it is pretty simple. We have a molded-in coupler. We have the cow catcher right here. We also have some nice step detailing on either side, which is all molded in. Now, for this engine, it's not a legacy or a scale engine, so you're not going to get a lot of separately fitted parts. Also, right under the pilot, you have the pilot wheels. Here, if we look on the front of the locomotive, we have a headlight with number boards on either side. We have a number board up front. We have some marker lights, but they do not light up, they're just green jewels. And underneath the boiler, we do have some separately applied metal grab irons on either side. Now, underneath the headlight, there appears to be a curved metal handrail, but it's not separately applied, it's just molded in. Here, if you look on the side of the smoke box, we have the beginning of the separately applied metal handrail that goes all the way to the length of the boiler. We have some nice molded in piping that goes down to the cylinders, and the cylinders do have some nice separately applied piping underneath here. And right here is a tiny legible builder's plate. Here's the builder's plates. Now, unfortunately, they got the date wrong and the builders wrong. The real 4500 was built on July 4th, 1918. However, it says it was built on February of 1918, and it was built by the American Locomotive Company, while the real 4500 was built by Baldwin. Here, if you look on the sides of the engine, we have this nice drive gear here, and all this stuff looks great when the engine is in motion. You'll see that in just a few minutes. And above the drive gear and the wheels, we have some molded in piping right here. And above that, we have the walkway. We also have some nice molded in piping here. Now, like I said, on this engine, there's not much separately fitted parts. A lot of the stuff is just molded in. Here's a close look at the firebox in the cab area. Right here, we have some nice piping on the firebox. Now, this does not have the ash pan glow effect, but it does have the firebox glow. Underneath the firebox, we have the nice detailed trailing truck. We have the nice 4500 on the side of the cab. Now, what I like about what they did is they actually put the Q3 classification, like the real 4500 is. And for the windows, you do have clear plastic inserts in one of the windows. Now, inside the cab, there are two hand-painted crew figures. There's a modestly detailed backhead, and there is 3 switches inside the cab, and I'll show you those in a little bit. Here's a look on the left-hand side, and it looks pretty much the same as the right-hand side, but we do have some different changes in detail. On this side, we do have a little bit of separately applied piping and a molded-in air compressor. Alright, on top of the engine, we have a smokestack, and there is a fan-driven smoke unit down in there. And as always, to load smoke fluid into the smoke unit, you simply pour the smoke fluid directly down the stack. Now, on the smokestack, we have a sand dome, and right behind the sand dome, we have a little brass bell that does move. Behind the bell, we have some separately applied pop-off valves and a very nice molded-in steam dome, and there's a brass-plated whistle right here. And on the sides, as you can see, we have the continuation of the 2 separately applied metal handrails. In front of the cab, we do have a dynamo generator right here that's molded in. We also have some nice molded in piping. Now, on the top of the cab, there's some nice rivet detailing, and there's 2 vents on the cab roof, but they do not open. They're just molded in. Now, in the cab here, there's 3 switches. There's the smoke on and off on the left-hand side. There's a switch for the transformer and the remote. And there's even a switch for the Bluetooth on and off. Now, inside the cab, there's the firebox glow. As you can see, the cab is modestly detailed, and there's the 2 hand-painted crew figures I mentioned earlier. Here's the drawbar. Now, as you can see, there's 4 metal contacts, and this drawbar is mainly used for the Lionel Lionchief Plus engines and some certain Lionel Lionchief Plus 2.0 engines. Now, when it comes time to connect the 2 together, all you need to do is carefully lift up the engine, take the tender, drop the drawbar into the slot like that, get your finger or screwdriver and pop it down. And that's all you need to do, and your engine is all ready to go. Okay, that's enough of the engine. Now let's check out the tender. On the front of the tender, we do have 2 separately applied metal grab irons on either side. We have some nice molded-in door detailing on front of the tender, and on the front we do have some nice rivet detailing. On the sides of the tender, we have some nice rivet detailing. There's a lot of it. And we have a crisp Baltimore and Ohio on both sides of the tender. On top of the tender, we have a nice metal coal load here. Then behind the coal pile, We do have a little bit of rivet detailing alongside the tender, and we have this water hatch, but it does not open. It's just molded in. On the back of the tender, we have the electrocoupler that can be fired from the Lionel lionchief Plus remote or the Bluetooth app. We do have some nice separately applied steps on either side. We also have the separately applied metal handrails alongside the back of the tender. We have some nice rivet detailing on the back of the tender. We have a crisp 4500, and we have some crystal lettering down here, and we have a nice molded in ladder. Okay, the last thing we do before I start this engine up is to mention my favorite feature on this engine. My favorite feature is an easy pick. It's the drawbar. It is very simple to use. I've had zero problems with it, and I think Lionel really thought the time of making a good drawbar that will give no problems for anyone. So yeah, my favorite feature is the drawbar. Now when you turn on the engine, you'll get this beeping sound, and the most common reason is that the remote is not turned on. So we'll turn on the remote. And there we go. Let's check out the whistle. Now it sounds different than most other lionchief Plus Mikados out there because I changed the pitch of the sounds on the Lionel lionchief Plus app. Here's the bell. Next up is some cab chatter.
This is the Yardmaster. You may depart. Over. Thank you, sir. We'll take the train.
Alright, we're going to couple her up to her train, and then we're going to move her out. Okay, let's go ahead and move her on out.
This is the Yardmaster. All clear ahead. Over. Thank you, sir. We're rolling.
Okay, that wraps it up for this review. This is a great engine. I'm happy to own it. It's a heck of a lot of fun to run. Now, if you're interested in purchasing one of these, the retail price is around $430. However, I got mine at Train World on a special one time for $285. So you can still find these on hobby stores, and you can find them for around $300. I really recommend picking one of these up. It may not be a scale model, but they look fantastic and they'll make you very pleased. Anyways, that's it for now. This is Brendan's Trains. See you next time.